Here we go. What's up, sir?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I always accidentally do that. I yell into the microphone right at the beginning, and I don't
good.
mean to. Hey, introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Robert Heil. I've been asked to come out and have a little conversation today. I'm an attorney here in Corpus Christi. We specialize in
A little
personal
Yeah.
injury cases. I do a lot of civil rights cases here in town, and motto of our law firm is battling for justice, winning for the community. So we like to make a difference here. We're involved in some charity projects, trying to invest, make our community a little bit better place. So just here, local Corpus Christi guy, and just trying to contribute, help some people, and help the community.
See, that's where I met. That's where I met you officially. I think we're like Facebook friends, which is what
Yes.
a lot of people here in town, especially over the last couple of years, where people got, were staying home and not going out as much. It's like I know that person, but do I know them in person?
Right.
And so when I saw you at an event recently, what was that event called? Where we had Randy White.
Kicks for Class. That's a charity that we started about 2 years ago. This is year 2, and we had Dallas Cowboy Randy White. Man, it was a good night. The Manster was in town.
I met that guy. I don't know if I told you that night. I met him several years ago when I worked at the radio, and he was just as big. I was like, bro, how are you your age? Like, I see some of these older dudes, like the Hulk Hogans or like those old NFL players. I'm like, how are you keeping your size? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. You, too, you're a big dude.
I'm pretty big, yeah.
What I told Jessica is that night I was sitting at the table. I was with my friends Claudia and Moses, and you were up there you were speaking, and you were talking about your family, and you were
Yes.
talking about this organization and just kind of growing up, and it just hit me. Like I've never really been that tuned into someone talking. Could have been the alcohol, but I remember just like, wow, like
Maybe message and alcohol.
I think what it was is my son recently took just a big interest in soccer, and he's
Yeah.
obsessed, like Messi, World Cup, FIFA, like he's obsessed. And prior to him doing that, my daughter was kind of like whatever about sports.
Yeah.
But you're talking about like growing up and like these kids that are trying to look for direction or trying to look for discipline. It comes from the sports, and you have a big history with that. I want to get into as well.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say thanks for the words you said that night. It really struck with me. A lot of it because I'm going through that transition with my son.
Yeah.
He's doing Sting Soccer, which is an academy here in town. And 2 weeks ago, we went to tryouts, and I've been joking with friends that have sons that play baseball or football. I was like, that was the first time I've ever felt like a sports dad.
Wow.
Where I was out there, and it wasn't just like, here you go, son, this is your team, play with those guys. Like, it was like, oh man, we're trying out here. Like, this is the real deal. Like, he might not make it, but luckily he did, and we're having a lot of fun with it. So
Congratulations, brother.
more
That's a
about the
big deal.
organization, if you could, and more about your family background when it comes to sports, just because I didn't realize that till that night. I was just like, hey, I was like taking notes, like, I got to talk to this guy.
There is a story behind it, but it was cool that you were there that night. It was a special night, and for me, man, I always go from the heart. Try to talk about what's real. I don't like a lot of the BS, and
Well, that makes speaking a lot easier when it's the truth.
The truth helps, right?
When you're BSing, it's like, he's BSing.
It shall know the truth, and it shall set you free. But if you can live in that moment, in that beautiful state, and just be honest and be truthful with what you're inspired by. What I believe, man, is I grew up around sports. I didn't really have a choice. My dad was the athletic director for the city, so I had to spend all the
So
weekends.
CCISD, right?
For the city of Corpus Christi. So he was the athletics director. He did all the basketball programs, baseball programs, was basically anything, softball. So all my weekends as a kid were spent either the sports I had to do or just tagging along with my dad, going to all the gyms and seeing that. But what I found and what he always told me that kind of stuck with me is that when you do that, it just brings out some good qualities and creates some good things within you. Something about the team, the accountability, being around people that are your age that are counting on you, and just that competitive spirit. Being around that, I'm sure you see that with your son too, that it just creates good things. And like we see at school, you can't play if you don't pass, so it kind of forces you to.
Well, especially nowadays with so many distractions that we didn't have we're not old, but when we were younger, there weren't all distractions on social media. Video games were video games. They weren't like connected to so many people where it's like, hey, I'm playing with all my friends from school right now. I'm like, you are? Like, that's cool. I was lucky just to play with my sister if she wanted to play Mario Brothers with me.
Yeah.
And so, it's nice to have something that they can actually go and do physically, especially with all the distractions.
It's so rare these days, yeah. So we didn't have a choice. We didn't have as much of that. And so this thing was created because I saw those good qualities kind of come out that, you stay so busy in the sports, and it's so good for your body, for your mental health, all that it kind of keeps you away from some of the negative influences.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of kids who don't have that family, that sport family, that they go out into drugs, gangs, just some of that, I think, just the boredom or not having things to do sometimes creates, distractions or can suck you into some bad stuff,
Well, it's weird with sports, especially nowadays. Like, I know teachers, they work so hard. And I think a lot of them, have over the years have been told that, like, hey, you can be strict, but don't be that strict. Like, we don't want to get in trouble, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to the sports, it's like no holds barred still, is the way I see it. Like, the sports and the coaches are still able to kind of lean on these kids, like, no, go run laps, or no, you got to do this, like showing some actual physical discipline, even though they're not spanking the kids.
Pretty close.
It's pretty physical when it's like, hey, go run horses, or go run laps, or we're not done with practice yet. You know what I mean? I think that's where, unfortunately, if some people or some kids don't have that discipline at home and they're missing it, maybe because parents are working or maybe there's one missing from the family household, they're getting it somewhere else. And I think that's important.
It is. You have that accountability, and that's one of the qualities that brings out that's good. You got a kid who's having to show up on time to practice. If they don't, they're running laps, and it creates that accountability for themselves and for the team. It creates discipline, teamwork, leadership, all that great stuff. But the problem is we got a lot of kids in this town that can't afford to even participate because they're being held back from some of those things. They're, with all the cost of prices going up and their families not being able to afford shoes, athletic equipment.
And that's because some sports have so much equipment involved. Like with soccer, it's cleats and we have soccer balls, and that's it.
Shin guards maybe.
Exactly,
right?
But with other sports like baseball and especially like football, all the pads, the equipment, the helmet, the cleats, all the pads, it's just really expensive sport.
You'd be surprised that the prices keep going up, and then even some things like as basic as socks, shin guards, soccer shoes, maybe even paying for the uniform. A lot of teams require that. Families just can't afford to do that and let everything else they got to do. So we created this program, Kicks for Class, so that kids wouldn't be held back.
It's called Kicks for Class, right?
Kicks for Class.
And how long ago did you start it?
Last year.
Just last year? Oh, okay,
just
cool.
last year. This is the second year. Last year we had a cool guy, Kevin Saunders, who's a Paralympian, gold medal Olympic guy. He was thrown over 300 feet and his body snapped in half, and his life changed.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he's from originally from Kansas, but he was working here in Corpus at the old grain mill. And there was a huge explosion in the 80s. Joe Gazin reported on it, and they became lifelong friends. He was thrown over 300 feet in the air, and his body snapped backwards and completely snapped in half. Before that,
how did he survive?
He shouldn't have. His chances, they gave him a 1% chance to live.
Have you ever heard that story, Jessica? Dude, and he still went on to do what?
He went on to win an Olympic gold medal in the Paralympics with a wheelchair after that.
Wow.
Yeah, and he always said that. He's a good friend of mine, and he always said it's not what life gives you, it's what you do after life gives you that. And so he's one of the best motivational speakers in the world. He lives here in Corpus. So we got a national treasure in Kevin Saunders. This guy trained with Tom Cruise for like 6 months for a movie Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Showed him how to be in a wheelchair, and they became buddies. He was appointed by the President of the United States, 2 presidents, to be on the Fitness Council, and he worked on that council with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So this guy's like a unbelievable life. He's won an Oscar for movies that he's done.
And these are all things that happened after the accident. Before that, he was just working at the mill.
Yeah, working at the mill, and his life changed. So all this amazing stuff and all this inspiration, all these things are just this beautiful life of accomplishment after something that most of us, wouldn't have been able to even survive or do anything after that.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and one of the things they said, it had all these different metaphors. Sometimes podcasts, they just get so deep, and I'm like, damn, it's like metaphor after metaphor after metaphor. I'm like, oh, reading cards. But on this one, it talked about how humans are the only people that can decide to change. Yes. And then one of the guys came back and said, well, what about a butterfly? Or what about a tadpole? And so what I thought was interesting about that is, he goes, well, they were always destined to be those things anyway. They just didn't know. He goes, but regular animals can't make the decision. It's people who are the ones that decide to change, to evolve.
Exactly.
And it's usually, in that case, that gentleman, something as crazy as being folded in half, I think, would change anybody's life.
Snapped in half.
At least that's the way. Yeah, snapped. Oof.
And he was actually pissed off and angry. He considered ending his life. He was just in a terrible place. And he went up to this place in Houston where they do rehab. And he saw a guy who was actually worse than him. He was paralyzed from the neck down. And the guy was the happiest guy he'd ever met in his life. He was in a wheelchair, kind of moving around, moving his face. And he painted. He had a paintbrush in his mouth because he could only move his head. And he was so happy, and he's like, what's going on with this guy? The guy's the happiest guy I've ever seen. And he was the one that told him, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do after. And Kevin started painting with him. He became friends, and it inspired him to do something with his life to make a difference after that. He made that choice and started training for the Olympics. He ran his first race in a real wheelchair. Like when you see these guys actually racing, they have all these decked out.
The ones that are kind of like, you can see the wheels like lean in a little bit. Yeah, kind of angle.
It's like a Ferrari. He ran his first race in a real wheelchair and finished last place, and he didn't even have the equipment, kind of like some of the kids we got here. But this dude is just unbelievable. And he and I basically started this thing last year to say, hey.
Whose idea was it? Was it your idea?
It was my idea,
just a collective?
Yeah, I have, I guess, a greater, spiritual connection, and I felt that this was put on my heart as a direct message to say, hey, any talents, any gifts that we've got, what are they here for? They're to help other people, to make, somebody else's life better. And I really believe that that's why we're given those gifts and talents, and he kind of shared that philosophy. So we created this thing so that we could help through sports, because we're both passionate about sports, to actually give kids who otherwise wouldn't have the access to be able to have some chance to be able to participate where otherwise they might be excluded or not have that opportunity. So it's kind of a beautiful thing, and it's growing. It's cool.
That's awesome. So it's been a year. Y'all been raising funds, and where do those funds go to? Is it kind of spread out through all of the schools, or do y'all have certain schools that are selected? How do y'all manage that?
All the schools in Corpus Christi are covered, and we partnered with a local charity. It's called Communities in Schools, run by a wonderful lady, Gloria Taylor.
Yeah.
So we carved out this special program within Communities in Schools. It's called Kicks for Class, and it's all under their 501c. And so they've already got a representative in each school. They got great relationships with all the coaches. They identified 5 boys and 5 girls from every school that need this help, this extra little boost.
That's kind of what I was curious about. I was like, how do they select the kids? But it's kind of connecting with the different local coaches within.
Yes, they already know, and they know the ones that have the need. And we call them MVPs. That we're trying to give them a leg up and a little boost. And there's kids in every school. There's probably more than 5 boys and 5 girls, but that's just what we had the budget for.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the first year to even do just that many is a lot.
Yeah, we did all the schools in Corpus in the first year, so we had 5 boys, 5 girls, and every single one got a pair of shoes. They got to get.
This is what age?
Academy.
What ages?
Middle school kids. So it's all middle school, and that's because it's in my view the most vulnerable and maybe that pivotal age in your life.
I would say it's when they decide either to go forth towards sports or say, no, that's not for me. I'm going to play video games, which is what I did.
What's the alternative?
Comic books and video games. I'm going to do that and eat a whole lot.
You got to find that balance, but it's that age, man, where are you going to go right, you're going to go left, like what's going to happen? And we'd like to think that maybe at that age, that if you can have sports as a positive influence, that maybe that might change the trajectory. And especially if you wouldn't otherwise have the chance, that this might give some kids an opportunity to make generational change and have some great stuff happen for them. Maybe just a little momentum to give them a leg up to do some good in their lifetime, So that's what it's about. And that last year we raised and covered all the schools. This year we got 5 new schools. And we added tennis rackets and musical equipment. So we got all these artists coming out now. There's Clarissa Serna is one of our personal shoppers. Javier Galvan from the band Fama is helping out. We're even getting some rappers from Houston that want to come in and support the music part. So it started out with sports and shoes, but it's kind of evolved. We're doing tennis and music. Anything that we can do to help encourage kids to be successful.
Think about how many kids are able to see all the different options that are out there for what they want to do.
Yeah.
When you're younger, you kind of see the regular stuff. It's doctors, lawyers, firefighters.
Yeah.
I think some kids in my class want to be astronauts. I'm like, yeah, right, bro. But
they're doing it now.
But
man.
now it's like they show these lists, and it's like YouTuber, influencer.
Yeah.
I want to be da-da-da-da. There's so many different options that it's cool that you are bringing in different people from different walks of life to go, hey, that's what you want to do? We'll find someone for that.
What's really cool, man, is that one idea and just one, thought or feeling on your heart can inspire something if you turn it into action. It's unbelievable how much momentum that created. And so I said, all right, it may not be perfect, but we're going to do this first year. Even if we just raise $5 and help one kid or $100 or whatever it is, we're going to start it, and we did it, and we got all the schools covered. This year we raised 5 times as much money as last year. So it's like, and it's weird when people see it and maybe just hear the message just by being there that night. It creates some movement or some inspiration that they connect to, and like, hey, man,
I'll tell you what,
stuff,
if I would have went to that event, it would have been a year ago, I probably wouldn't have had the same connection. But because of what I'm going through as a dad with my son, it's really, really resonated because, like I see the other kids on the team, or I see the kids that really want to do it and maybe they don't have the resources.
Yeah, because timing's everything too. There's a plan for that. And, you're put in that place at that right time for the right reason. So and maybe that message was supposed to be there that night for you and your family,
Speaking
and
of,
obviously it created some movement. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it did, because I was like, we're gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna give a little bit more, because at first I was like, I don't know if he's serious about it, but then I saw when he was, I was like, okay, we're gonna take it serious. Yeah. We'll do the traveling soccer. We'll do the 2 nights a week. We're gonna have practice, and then 2 nights we're gonna have games. It's like, I get it. It's gonna take over my life. I literally looked at my wife. I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. Yeah, we're gonna do this. We're not gonna just be like, hey, we'll go drop him off. Like, we're gonna be soccer parents. I get that.
You're creating that change for him in his life and going to give him that boost of confidence, and maybe he's going to be the next U.S. men's national team, man.
Well, that's what he says. Like, I want to be a World Cup player. I was like, all right, let's go. Let's do what you got to do.
Get it, man.
But when I was little, we moved around quite a bit. So I'm from Corpus, and then when I was in 6th grade, we moved to San Antonio. My dad had a hair salon, and so he had to kind of go ahead of us and start making clients and doing different things. And so I never really had that attention. Not that I wanted it, because I really didn't have any desire for it. I had some friends that were doing it, but I never got that sports bug until I got over there. And then right when I was getting good at basketball, we came back. So really funny, like, out of the movie story, I was so ready to be on the team. I was at Carroll, and I was going to try out. I was a little chubby. I'm still a little chubby. And
looking good, man.
I remember practicing, and I was like, damn, good. It was the only time in my whole life where I've worn a pair of shoes, like, down. Down. It was a pair of Jordan 13s, and they were just worn out in the sole. Like, that was the only time in my life I knew I was like, I'm working, because these shoes are done. And got back to Carroll. I was like, I'm going to go try out, da-da-da. And I got to practice freshman year. No, not freshman. I got to practice junior year. I was like, I'm going to try to make the team, JV, right? And the coach goes, all right, shirts and skins. I was like, damn. I was like, all right. I was on skins, and I was like, I don't ever play with my shirt off. I'm usually, a T-shirt kind of guy. So there I am.
Can I be on shirts?
So there I am, and I'm running down the court. I'm just bouncing. It might have been Baywatch. I'm just like slow-mo. I'm like, this feels awful. And as a kid, like, you feel uncomfortable.
Self-conscious, yeah.
So then I quit.
Oh, man. You needed some encouragement.
I did. I just didn't have that. I didn't have that. If my dad would have said, hey, just suck it up, I probably would have. But he was, anyways, I'm not putting any blame on them. But like you said, the encouragement, the dedication from the parents, it takes a big part too.
What I see is that kids, value so much what other kids think at that age. And it sounds like you went through that. If you don't have the right shoes, the right equipment, then they laugh you off that field. And so you might show up with some Walmart shoes, and then you're not a cool kid, and it might hold you back from doing that. So imagine now, fast forward, maybe that experience, that thing that you went through, maybe on one of your worst days, could be carried forward to give some kid the opportunity that doesn't have that feeling. Maybe it'll project him that he can do something.
I would say the tip is push-ups.
Yeah,
I push-ups. Do a lot of push-ups.
Or create some change, but
it's what made you? I made me think about it a while ago. So, I mean, obviously, and I'm glad we're talking about this event, but I want to get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, of course.
So, what made you become a lawyer, working and living in that sports world when you were younger with your family? What made you go, okay, cool, I'm going to go be a lawyer, though?
I always did a lot of sports growing up. I did judo, stuff like that. I was a state judo champ when I was 13. But in middle school, there was a lady, Miss Nelson, my 7th grade teacher at Baker Middle School. And she was the speech teacher, and we did a mock trial in that class. And I was kind of like just trying to figure out what I was trying to do, what I was good at. Everyone has that talent, their abilities. And I don't know, when you do something that you love and you're in tune with it, and it just kind of just sucks you in and draws you in, and you get super excited, super passionate about it. That happened for me in that class, in Miss Nelson's 7th grade class, with debate and with mock trial. Mm-hmm. I got to be a lawyer in a little thing, and we had to do this like little trial, and man, it was just like,
did you win the mock trial?
Boom, won the trial that day, and I loved it, man. It was just something you connected to. How when you just know that's what I want to do, that's what I believe, that's what happened.
Where did you experience lawyers from? Was it like in the movies, or did you know any lawyers?
You see like LA Law on TV and stuff like that. You have this conception. There's a lot of negative conception about it, but for me, it's like, man, we're fighting this thing, we're winning. You're trying to help somebody else. It was just something that connected with me, and from that moment, like through that experience, it's like I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I never liked school and didn't like doing homework.
So you decided to go for a really long time?
I tried to do more. I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew what I had to do to get there, even though it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I made the commitment, I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to stop. So I went, did everything that I needed to do to get the degree undergrad at UT. Then I ended up in law school, got through, but I was ready to be done. I hated school, to be honest, but I always wanted to be a lawyer. Yeah.
That doesn't go hand in hand at all.
It's weird. I did what I had to do, and I think I was good enough that I could get by without putting a lot of effort sometimes, but it just takes showing up, man. If you just show up every day, then you can get through it. And some kids just put these limitations on themselves, like I'm not going to be able to do it, or I don't have enough money, I don't have this. I was like, no, it doesn't matter what, doesn't matter where, I'm going to find a way to get through and do this because I know it's what I'm supposed to do. And so that's what I did.
It's weird because growing up, me and my dad would argue a lot because I always wanted to be right. And that was his big thing. He's like, son, you're going to be a lawyer one day. I didn't really know what a lawyer was other than, I guess, someone who fights to be right.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And so I tried for a really long time to understand what he meant by that. But really, I don't know what it was about me when I was younger. I just liked being right.
Yeah.
Not because I wanted to prove anybody wrong I was just very passionate about whatever I was interested in at the point, and I wanted to prove my point, even if I was a little bit wrong.
See, you would have been a good lawyer. I could tell, man.
But see, I think with being a lawyer, like you said, just a lot of schooling. It's a lot of learning the law. I don't really, I don't know the law. Like I just get lucky.
Yeah, you got to read a lot and you got to show up every day. But if you can just, keep pushing, it doesn't matter that, you get to that place where you're going to get through.
So since 7th grade, you've wanted to be a lawyer? You never did anything else?
Never did anything else. I went to business school at UT because I always was intrigued by the stock market, business, stuff like that. I always liked money, and learning about it and understanding business. But, man, that was one of my other passions. But the law is what I wanted to do, and it wasn't to make money. The idea was to do it to help other people. And so, that's what it was there for. It's like, what am I going to do when I get out, and how can I help maybe some other people or fight for something bigger than myself.
Well, it's like you said a while ago. Like I think there's a misconception about lawyers, probably because the ones that get the most attention are the bad ones.
True.
And when you see TV, especially growing up in like the 90s, early 2000s, you see all these trials that are now broadcasted, and it's like there's some scary situations. Of course, OJ is a real big one, but then you have the ones that are actually fighting for good people, and you're like, oh, there is some good lawyers.
There's like one or two of us.
Like Johnny Depp's lawyers. Yeah, Johnny Depp's lawyers. Those are good ones.
She was cool. I think people get this impression that like they're either trying to get guilty people off of crimes, so they're just scumbags, they're not honest, or all they care about is money. You know what I mean? And so there's that reputation. But if you look at history in the past, some of our greatest, leaders and people we looked up to, there was a lot of integrity in there. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, a lot of these presidents and leaders that they went to school to actually learn concepts and ideas that they could put in place to become leaders and help people in some way. So that's all changed. I think it's eroded where now there's a negative impression that it's just about money or lying or getting guilty people off. But at some point in history, there was a place of integrity and compassion and service.
Well, that
Maybe
probably
we're coming
comes
back
from
around on that.
That probably comes from certain types of marketing that lawyers get and do. No names. And
you see it here, right?
And all you see is the numbers. Like I'm a realtor, and I've even asked Jessica. Jessica, by the way.
Hey, Jess, how you doing?
I've said like, hey, should we start doing it this way to where I'm going to post up? Here's an X amount we made this client. Here's da 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 da.
Yeah.
It's not as big as the $1 million sometimes, but I was like, is that what I need to do? But I was like, I don't know if that's the way I want to go. But I think a lot of people do go that way.
I don't put numbers up on my ads. What I care about is people and investing in relationships, and I want to build a long-term relationship with my clients, and we want to honor that trust they give us to give them the best possible experience and be their partner through that difficult journey of whatever they're going through, whether it's civil rights or injury, whatever it might be. I think if you focus on the people, then good things happen, and you can create change through each case. But if all you care about is the number and it's a transaction, I think you're missing the fucking point.
I think a lot of people it sounds like you deal with a lot of people, and on a personal level that a lot of the friends and family might not even know what's going on. And so we always say we get the call first before anybody else does when there's a breakup. Yeah. We get the call first before. And when things are going bad, it's like they call us. Yeah. Before that, mom knows, dad knows, best friend knows, Facebook knows, anybody knows, we know. And I think it's because a lot of people are going through situations that they don't understand how the process truly works. True. Probably the same with y'all. Like there's people that get themselves in situations where they didn't read the fine print, or they just overlooked it because they were just moving fast. You have that a lot with y'all's line of work?
The perspective I have is that by the time they get to me, then they're coming to a place and a service where they can't solve problems on their own. So every day we're having to identify and solve things that people can't do themselves. And so the law is so convoluted and complex and specialized that you probably, without that training, can't do it. It's hard and it's not intuitive. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to just say, oh, this is what I need to do. So it is, you got to have that trust and partnership with whoever you're working with to be able to explain it and be able to guide you through that as a team and as a partnership with your client.
I would think that would, for any, good service business, I don't care if you do hair, if you're a lawyer, you're real estate, if you fix cars, having that transparency of, hey, look, this is the situation you're in, and being doctors for sure. Yeah. And I've told people that before. It's like, look, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Yeah. And you're not going to like it.
It's trust,
here's the way it goes. And I think, we've gotten pretty far by doing that, because unfortunately in our business, there's people that will just try to get the deal and they won't be very honest, because they just want the deal. Like,
they want the money.
I want this listing. I don't know what I'm going to do with it once I get it, but I really want it. So I'm going to tell you everything you need to hear, and then I'm going to get it and not know what to do. And then a month or 2 months from now, you're like, what's going on? It's like, I don't know. I just wanted the listing. I just told you what you need to hear, and now I don't know what to do.
Because you're focused on the commission instead of the person and the relationship. But if you take care of them, you listen, you're honest, you build that trust and have that transparency, you have a client for the rest of your life. And all their friends and family will say, I trust Gino.
But here's not to say at the very beginning, I didn't fake it till I made it.
Sometimes.
I was like, I'll figure it out along the way once we go through it, and then the next time around I'll be good. Has it ever felt like that for you, where you've had to take on cases like, all right, guys, let's get together. How are we figuring this out? Because we need to figure it out. I don't know what to do right now.
Yeah, you got to learn the rules. You got to be honest about that. The cool thing is if you do it long enough and you focus on a certain area, you can get better at it, just like you did. Now you could probably do this in your sleep, and you can anticipate all these things happening, and you can guide and advocate for your clients better.
Well, I think one of the things that I've told people, they're like, how do you know all these things? I'm like, because I've messed up a lot.
We learn
I've
from our
learned
mistakes.
a lot, and we've been in situations where it's like, what the hell do we do here? And a lot of the times it took me calling Chris, who's our broker, and I'm like, hey, what do you do in these situations? And he takes off his cousin hat and he puts on his broker hat. He's like, all right, here's da-da-da. I'm like, oh, I forget you know this stuff.
Yeah.
Because we're always just messing around.
He's been through it.
But you have more family in y'all's firm too, right? Don't you have?
Well, my brother has his own law firm. He's a lawyer in town also. We grew up together.
But he practices different kind of law.
He does real estate,
I knew that.
Closing company, and then he does a little bit of federal, and then helping with estate planning, stuff like that.
Did you lead him, or he led you?
He's my little brother, so he saw me doing all this stuff. He actually was in engineering school. I don't know if a lot of people know that. He was at UT Engineering School, and then he saw Big Brother doing law and all my passion, and I don't know what inspired him. Maybe it was me, but
you know what's funny?
He ended up that
I
way.
can keep up with law because it's very similar to somewhat real estate. There's just a lot of like verbiage.
Yeah.
But the thing I can't keep up with, and I have some friends and some new neighbors, and they're like engineers. We were in the pool one day, and these guys were talking. It was just like a Sunday. We're just chilling out, throwing some food on the fire, and these guys are talking. I'm like, what the fuck y'all talking about? I'm like, I have no idea are y'all talking a different language? Mm-hmm. And so there's different industries that I get very intimidated by, and that's one for me. Like I don't understand all the energy and the layer and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In your line of work, do you get to meet people where it's like, oh shit, this is the world I don't know?
You see it all the time, like realtors, there's a language and everyone has that jargon and that language. It's like they all know it, but if you're outside of that industry, you probably don't understand.
Well, that's most of our buyers. Like, are you speaking English? Like, yeah. It's the option period. You're going to drop off the earnest money. Then we have this many days for inspections. And they're going to go wait for the appraisal. And they're like, what?
That doesn't make sense to me. You got to explain it and walk them through.
How much are my payments? It's like, it's this much.
I think every industry creates like these words and these expressions and these ideas that only they're going to understand. And they might even put them into like, little anachronisms or whatever. And it's this and this, TBI and DUI, PIP, UIM, all these expressions.
See what?
Insider stuff for like, injury law.
You sound like my daughter texting.
Yeah, like all this stuff. And I think they make it like an exclusive club to keep people out of that.
You think so?
The professional. That's how I felt. Like in law, you're just learning all these things. They're basic concepts, but they just give them like Latin names and Latin words, and it kind of keeps people out of that understanding. But I think
doctors do that quite a bit. So do nurses.
Yeah, it's like I need this. Yeah. But once you know it and you understand it, it's just an idea, and you can get through it. If you can explain that to your client, then you can work through that with them.
Do you? I didn't even ask. Did you have kids?
Yeah, I got a son and a daughter, and then I have I was with my ex-wife for about 10 years. She had 2 kids from before, and then she and I had a little girl, Emerald, together. But with those 3 kids, we treat them all the same, like as in that relationship.
What's the age range between everybody?
Well, Steven's now 21, Jasmine's 20, and Emmy's 13. So there's about 7 years difference. I met them when they were 3 and 2. So they've been my kids in my heart since I knew
babies,
them. Yeah, and we didn't treat them any different. So that's her sister, that's her brother, and all 3 of them are my kids. And
that's awesome.
They all still call me daddy. My daughter, oldest one, still lives with me and works at the law firm.
Oh, cool.
Was at the event that night. So we just have a real special bond, and you don't stop love. Like once you have that, then it continues beyond that, whether they're your biological kids or not, they're in your heart. And so I have 3 beautiful kids because of that, and sometimes timing is everything too, and it puts you in the right place at the right time to make a difference for somebody else, and that's kind of cool to see.
How old are your youngest ones?
13, my little one.
13 is the youngest one. Okay.
Yeah, she's 13. She's playing volleyball, middle school here in Corpus, and she's 13 going on 22. So
That's literally my joke, because everybody goes, how old's your little girl? I'm like, dude, she's 11 going on 21. And I think a lot of that has to do with social media. A lot of it has to do with her mom. And because I look at pictures of my wife when she was 11, I'm like, bro, that is not our daughter. Who is this little girl? And it's scary because obviously there's that TikTok. What does it say? It says, what's the best part about having kids? It's like watching them grow up. And then it's like, what's the worst part about having kids? It's like watching them grow up. Yeah. Especially because when you're growing up and you're having kids and they're babies and everyone says it happens so fast, but that expression does not make any sense until you go through it. It's nice to hear these expressions. Like, I know there's always expressions when you're growing up that you hear, And you're like, yeah, okay, yeah. Like, you smile. One of the biggest ones when I was little was before me and my wife had kids. My dad was always like, I was like, man, I want a boy. I was convinced I was going to have a boy.
That's what
I'm
I
going to
want.
have a boy. And my dad would always say, he's like, son, you just want a healthy baby. You just want a healthy baby. And I'm like, yeah, of course, Dad, of course. But I want a boy because in my family, it's me as the oldest and my sister as the youngest. And so when we got pregnant the first time with our daughter, and we started going through all the different tests you have to go through, and all the different, I didn't know all those different things and tests. They were going to be, hey, we're going to do this now. Do you want to do this test? Do you want to do this test? You're like, God, it's like every corner you are trying to scare us to death that something's going to be wrong with our baby. And, it does happen that way sometimes, unfortunately. And, especially here, there's, we have a children's hospital. There's tons of people that are having babies and they're having these moments where, sorry, I'm not trying to make this like all
I love
sad.
it, man. I'm learning a lot.
But my point is that, those expressions that you hear when you're younger don't make any sense. And as we get older, it's like, damn, now I know what they're talking about. Why didn't I listen before?
Yeah. Things
would have been a little easier, or it made more sense. What advice did your dad always say? What were the things that he was always telling you?
It's weird growing up, man, because all the things that my parents said to me, it's like, okay, it's all these things they kept repeating, like, oh, you'll understand someday. Mm-hmm. That day came, but it was like, 20 years later, and like, oh, man. And now I can see she doesn't understand it. Mm-hmm. So as I'm repeating those things and saying those things, like, we have that clarity, but I don't think we're meant to understand them until we have that experience ourselves.
But you know what? The one thing my parents never told me that I always bookend my advice. I go, look, what I'm telling you, my parents said the same thing, and I felt the same way. Yeah. I thought, you're stupid. You know what you're talking about. You're wrong. Stop. I go, but now that I'm older, I'm realizing it. So I go, just take what I'm saying and just know it's not going to make sense now, like you said, but it will. One of the big things they would always ask, anytime I would meet somebody, what was their last name? I was like, I don't know. Oh, I met this this dude. What's his last name? I don't know. Well, I met this girl. What's her last name? I was like, I don't know. I don't walk up to people and be like, what's your last name?
It's not your thing. Yeah.
It's like, that's Steve.
Yeah.
Or that's Deborah. That's Gina.
Yeah.
But then now having kids and growing up, and luckily we haven't got to move around a lot, so they're growing up with neighbors and friends. Yeah. And so when they meet certain kids, I'm like, hey, I know that kid.
I know that one.
What's his last name? They're like, I don't know, Dad.
I don't know.
I'm going to go to Facebook quick. Oh, yeah, stay away from that guy.
It's funny. But yeah, it's trial and error, and I think what I told her is like, we learn from our mistakes, and I said a smart person learns from their own mistakes, a wise person learns from the mistakes of others, and hopefully it'll register in her that this wisdom that we've got, that we've been through, that our parents told us about, if they listen to it, but it doesn't seem to be working that way.
Who do you think who takes better advice, the boys or the girls?
It's hard to say. I think they're stubborn. I think what matters more to them at that age is what their friends think, and we were that way too. All we cared about, obviously, is what other people thought and that approval. It isn't until you have like an epiphany or awakening within yourself that what other people think doesn't really matter that much, and you can be independent and do what you want and live for your own happiness, that changes. But it takes a lot of strength and confidence to get there.
Yeah,
like
but
you making that decision now in basketball will be different than when you were at that age. Now you'd probably hit the gym, work out, or figure it out, or just do something different, But
think about the social power that these kids have that they didn't used to have. Like, you would go to school and there'd be a popular kid at school, and now it's like the popular kid in the group chat, the popular kid on Fortnite, the popular kid on Roblox, the popular kid on the FaceTime call. It's like always something.
The standards keep changing, and it's in a different way with technology. But I think it's changing. You're seeing a lot of like mental health crises because of all the social media, and it's just crazy how much information can be contained on this little gadget. And it's affecting their minds and their opinions so much, and they have so much more access to information we didn't have. It's changed how they are, and I think they're more mature as a result, but they're also more overwhelmed, and they don't know how to deal with real shit like we were able to. It's just different, man. It's kind of crazy.
Well, they make some of the movies that have come out the last couple of years. Adam Sandler came out with a movie last week. It's called You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah. Have you seen it? It just came out last week. Yeah. Really, really good.
Netflix.
It's got both of his daughters in it. They play his daughters in the movie. They're teenagers, and then one's a little older, and then it's got his real wife. She's in there as well. And the reason I bring it up is because that movie, along with a few others that have come out, it really shows parents that maybe don't realize how much their kids are involved with social media on all these different all these different social media channels,
Yeah.
and how fast it is to do something at school and then get home and everybody know about it. People that weren't even there, like people that weren't even in the classroom, people that weren't even near, like hearing distance, know about this stuff. So unfortunately, yeah, it does make it go a lot faster.
Information is so fast and it's so available, and then they're already reacting, and then it's old like within a couple hours.
But it's like they're making memes about it.
Already.
Can you imagine your worst day ever? And try to think of your worst day ever in school, and then it being in a meme format or a TikTok or a viral video. It's like, damn, like
it would be permanently damaging. That's why you're seeing so many kids give up and like killing themselves or hurting themselves. Like a lot of kids are doing that now.
I know, and it's really sad. Like when we were growing up, when our little girl was growing up, and we would hear these stories about these young kids. This show's getting real dark today.
It's happening out there,
but it's real though. I think it's important because we would see these movies or we'd see these news stories where like these little kids were getting bullied, and they're 12 or 13, and mom and dad are working, and they just don't, they don't confide in them, and they go and do something horrible to themselves. And I'm like, and like there was one time me and my wife were talking about it. She was just crying. She's like, I just don't know what to do. Like, how do I prevent that from happening? And I go, we just got to raise strong kids and let them know they're loved every single fucking day. We have to tell them every day like they are loved. Yeah. My mouth's shaking.
What's crazy, man, is one little thing can set them off that wouldn't be something that would set us off. Like last week, my daughter had a girl she was, fighting with, and she didn't understand why. And it's just unbelievable that one little thing like that could rock her world so much, and it ruined her day. She was being terrible to everybody, and it's just like things we wouldn't think are important, like, can have such a profound effect, and we might not even know because it's happening digitally,
And it's tough to be like a dad and just give the dad advice, because the dad advice 20 years ago would have worked. It's like, don't worry about it. Now it's like, I have to worry about it. It's right here. It's on my phone. I'm getting notifications.
But it's like you're saying, all we can do, like in the solution, is to try to get them to make good choices and be confident in themselves and realize that it might be bad today or it might feel bad, but it's like there's always tomorrow, and there's the hope and the certainty that it's going to get better. And even if it feels bad right now, you just got to know that there's going to be a rainbow past that little rain cloud at some point. And that's what I try to instill in her, and just listen and get them to talk, because sometimes, I don't know if you have this, they're just clams. They don't want to share, and they don't want to talk about it.
No, I think our little girl's pretty good. Our little boy, it's weird because my little girl's on the phone, all social. Little boy's on the phone, all creative. Yeah. So he's YouTubing, he's making videos, he's making cuts. Nice. He's literally got the camera outside on a tripod filming himself playing soccer, and then he's putting transitions with fire, and I'm like, chill out, Sports Center. So they're very different, the things they do on there.
They have their own identities, But it's like you say, man, there's no rule book for how to do it or how to be a good parent. I think it's trust, support, just letting them know you love them unconditionally, like you're doing. And maybe getting them active in sports is good too,
Let's get to some happier stuff. Where did you just come back from? Because I've been trying to get you on here for a couple of weeks.
A lot of people don't know,
And where'd you go, if you can share?
I was in Brazil, so we had the summer deal, and my mom actually passed away, going dark again. But
bro,
that was last year, which is it's beautiful. We actually took her ashes down there, and we honored her. She wanted half her ashes here at Snoopy's because it's her favorite place in Corpus. The other half in Brazil because she's from Brazil. So we honored her wishes, and my sister and my daughter and I went down there, and we were able to put her ashes in the ocean.
Was there a certain spot in particular y'all had in mind, or y'all kind of just?
There's this place about 2 hours east of Rio called Buzios. It's a little kind of fishing village that turned into a beach place, and she fell in love with it. Brigitte Bardot kind of discovered it in the 60s and was running around there with Mick Jagger and stuff, the Rolling Stones, and it's just this beautiful place that's in tune with nature and just beautiful beach, and she fell in love with it, and she asked whenever she passed that she could be there. And so we had the Snoopy ceremony, did everything here, and then we took Mamacita down to Brazil to be where she wanted to be.
This is going to sound really weird. One, my wife has been adamant for the last several years, like, hey, I want to be cremated. Her mom passed away in 2021, and so it's one of those things she thought about as well. Two, my dad was cremated. Yeah. This is going to sound really weird. I have a small portion of, I know you're not supposed to break them up, but I have a small portion of mine. I didn't even tell anybody. It's actually in my office over there.
My mom is in my living room, man. Weird. Because we cremated her, and the whole cremation thing kind of freaks me out a little bit, but it's what she wanted. And I talked to my sister. I was like, is it weird that I want to keep a part of mom with me?
No. Like my sister got a piece. Literally, that sounds horrible. A section.
Yeah.
I got a section. My mom got a section.
I have a little jar in my living room with a little card from her ceremony. It has a hummingbird on the back and then a little prayer that we wrote.
Hold on, let me figure out, Jessica. Did you know I have some of my dad's ashes in the office?
No, we don't. Don't throw those out. Mamacita's there, and I don't know. It just I know her spirit is somewhere more beautiful, and I feel now she's our guardian angel. But having her, there, it gives me some comfort and some connection, and I know she's kind of there watching and connected to what we're doing. And she was very close to Emmy, my little one, and so I know Emmy, feels that connection too. It's a beautiful thing, man, and I don't think there's anything weird. And I asked my sister, "Is this weird, or should we put it all in the ocean like Mom wanted?" And she's like, healing and, what we go through.
I don't think she'll be
personal.
mad about it.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd be mad about it.
If it helps you and it's good for you, then there's nothing wrong with it, and you should do it. And so Mamacita's right there, and it's pretty cool.
So you said your little girl, her name is Emmy?
Emmy,
Was that her
Emerald.
first time out of the country?
Yeah, first time she'd been out of the country, so she got to see.
Oh, crazy. She has a passport
Brazil.
and everything?
Yeah, she's got a passport now. That's weird. But, we got to see the Jesus Christ statue in Rio.
Oh, wow. So you got to be Vin Diesel.
Yeah, Vin Diesel. I was thinking Fast and Furious and Ludicrous. But it's just so beautiful, man. It's a beautiful country, and it got her to see, like, where her vovó is, what she's called, her grandmother, where she came from, learned the language. She was able to eat the food. She loved these little cheese bread things that they got called pão de queijo. And they have this drink called guaraná, which is like from this fruit in the Amazon rainforest. And she just fell in love with it, and it like connected her to that, and it was just kind of beautiful. It was like a journey where we got to be together, but we also got to connect with, with Vovo, so it was pretty cool.
Was this your first time ever going, or you been there before?
I was born there. So
you were born there.
A lot of people don't know. My brother and I were born in São Paulo, Brazil.
How long did y'all live there?
About 2 or 3 years.
Interesting. What brought them to America?
Military dictatorship. This was at a time where the government was overthrown by the military, and actually my mom's uncle had been the president of the Brazil, the last democratically elected president in the 1960s, a guy named Jânio Quadros. And once the military took over, she was being followed around by like the Secret Service military guys. She had started a Montessori school, and all of the teachers in that school were kidnapped and like tortured.
Whoa.
And so it wasn't safe for us to be there. And so my dad, who's American from Ohio, my mom's Brazilian, they said we should probably go back. And her dad, who was a doctor, a radiologist in Brazil, said it's not safe here right now.
Is there a Netflix special on this?
They
It sounds like it should be.
It's a weird story that Gino had pinned like a Medal of Honor on Che Guevara and Fidel Castro during this time in the 60s. And so there was some concern that he was, in line with this communist movement and all this stuff, and so he wasn't. But then the government was overthrown and the military took over, and so the military was in power until 1986. He went and exiled in London and lived in London for like 20 years. Then he came back when they opened up the democracy and got reelected to be the mayor of São Paulo. But
wait, this is who?
Jânio Quadros. It's my mom's uncle, like my great uncle.
Didn't we have someone recently who said they had someone that was like? We had a guest recently, and I feel bad that I don't remember who it was, that they were like, Grandpa lived in a cave for a little while. Who was that? It was like, they're like, huh?
I don't remember.
It's like Encino Man, like Pauly Shore.
No, like they hid in a cave for a couple years.
Wow.
Dang it, who was that? It was someone recently.
He was hiding out.
I don't remember. Was it asshole?
I'll have to research that. Do the research.
No, it's like literally on my computer. I just got to go listen to it. Damn,
fine.
I can't remember who said that.
Yeah,
I think it would have been.
Jânio didn't live in a cave, but his life was in danger, and so he went to London and exiled there for a while, and came back and became the very popular mayor. But anyway, so because of that, my family moved to Austin, and then we grew up here in Corpus. So
what school did you go to? High school?
Ray High School. So I went to Windsor Park, Baker, and Ray.
Did you graduate with that ugly guy back there, Chris?
No, I thought he was in Alice with another guy. Yeah,
Chris?
I thought so.
No, he went to Ray. He graduated from Ray.
Okay, huh.
What year did you graduate?
I got out in '94.
Oh, okay, no, he's a baby.
He's a baby.
Like 13 or something like that.
Okay, he was younger back then. He's buddies with a guy that I know in Alice, Trey Adamy. So I'm thinking, I thought they had an Alice connection.
No, crazy.
Yeah, but no, we came here, grew up here. So everything I really remember is here in Corpus and growing up here, and I loved it. Went back to Brazil when I was in college because I disconnected from the culture completely. It's where I was born, and I only spoke Portuguese till I was 3. But in college, it's like, man, like half my life, half my roots are over there, and I don't really know the culture, and I don't even really speak Portuguese that well.
And they probably got way better beaches than us.
Way nicer, yeah. It's real nice. So I went and I studied business school there for a year, and then
over there?
In Brazil.
Really? Did that transfer here when you went to UT?
Transferred to UT. So
interesting.
I was part of the first internship between UT and São Paulo, this school called Getúlio Vargas. So I got to be me and this other guy, Will Schwartz, were the first class for international business at UT.
Very cool.
And so we lived in Brazil for a year. All the classes were in Portuguese, and I got to relearn it and just had a great.
So how long have you been licensed since you were 18?
Since 2001. So
wow.
I got out of law school, went to law school after that, and then have been practicing since 2001. So it's pretty cool. But it's cool to see that both sides and then to reconnect. And it's kind of came full circle that now my daughter's able to kind of get that connection.
Yeah.
And such a beautiful culture. Like, I don't know if you've been there. They live life in a different way. And they, I don't know, they know how to enjoy things. Here it's work, and money. There
I do
it's
enjoy
about family and love,
going overseas because it really slows you down.
Yeah.
Especially when you go to countries and places where they're not worried about all the dumb shit we worried about on a daily basis. And they're just living. I remember one time last year we went to Isla Mujeres, which is about 45 minutes from Mexico.
I've been there.
And you just take a ferry, it's a small 2-mile island. And if anybody's never been there, it's literally 2 miles long.
Yeah.
You can take a golf cart and drive around.
You can drive golf carts in there. Yeah.
I
and dolphins.
I never seen my kids watch all the school kids get out. And they're just running around and they're literally running to their houses. And I say, hey, y'all want to move here? And they're like, as they sit there on their pads, like, no, we're good.
No, we're good.
But going places like that really kind of wakes you up and reminds you what's important. One, because me and my wife have always joked like, hey, if the world ends, where we're going, and we both had decided we're going somewhere tropical. We're gonna live by the water. Like that's the ultimate goal. And it's crazy to think like here's people that are living that dream, and you're like, damn, maybe we should just do it now. We should just give everything up, sell everything.
You gotta have balance and enjoy.
If you were gonna end of the world, where's your end of the world place? And what I mean by that is, end of the world, shit's going down. You're like, I don't want to be around any of the major cities. Yeah. Or maybe you do want to be around it. Maybe you want to be like a warrior. You're like, I'm killing everybody. Where do you want to take the fam and move to?
There's a cool island in Brazil called Ilha Grande. It's there's no cars. It was abandoned until like 10 years ago. No electricity. And they built it up, and it has some of the most beautiful beaches. And there's like a little community there, just a couple thousand people. Artists, like
what do they do
engineers.
For lights?
They eventually got some lights up, but they were doing candlelight, basically. Really? It was like this little village, and there's no cars, so you just walk on these little dirt paths. And there's never been a crime there in like 3 years. Everybody takes care of each other.
Because everybody's just chilling. Like,
One guy
where are you going to go? You can't.
One guy assaulted someone one night, and they said he wasn't from here, but he was visiting, and he was messed up on drugs or something. And he hit somebody, some female that was visiting the island, and he punched her. And by the time the police had got there, the whole island had beaten him up already. And then they sent him on the boat. And he said that was the last time anyone did anything. And he goes, I was talking to a guy from Mexico who had moved there. He used to work in the government and all these things. And he just stopped everything and opened a little restaurant where he makes burritos and serves them. Yeah. And he's there. And he goes, I haven't locked my door in 3 years.
I think I say this, and most people that maybe know me a little bit, they're like, I don't think you could do that. I really feel like that'd be a dream, just like to live in Mexico. Yeah. Wake up every day, cook. Sell some tacos.
That's what he does.
Maybe some tourists come in. I'm just like super burnt tan.
That's
like
what he's
no
doing.
Shoes on.
He was very tan. This dude was awesome. But you could tell he was happy. He said, man, I haven't locked my door in 3 years, and my family's here. We have the chance to spend time with the kids every day. And it's like you cut all that complexity and all that bullshit out of life, and he's living the pure thing.
Well,
like
what are the human needs? We need shelter. Yeah. We need food. What are the other ones? It's like the 5 things. You know what it is?
Love.
Jessica, pull it up.
Validation. Peer support. I don't know.
I think love. It's love, food, shelter. Let's see what it says.
Self-actualization, like Maslow's scale.
Food, water, clothing, sleep, shelter. So if you're on an island and you got food, water, you're sleeping.
There's fruits growing off the trees. You can just pluck papayas and mangoes.
I think it's only when we add in all this post does not get as many likes, or I would really like this car, or I would really want all these bullshit
There's no
things.
internet on the island, man.
Yeah. Well, what do you need it for?
Yeah. They're connected to the surf and the beach and the boats and the fishing. And the guy makes burritos with his wife, and they don't have we came in the first night, and he said, oh, I'm sorry, we have a table for 8 tonight. We can't seat anybody else. It's like, you only have 8 people in this little porch. And he says, but if you come back tomorrow night, we'll set you up. He had 2 tables, and it was great burritos. He made this homemade fire-roasted salsa.
Well, you're on a deserted island. I'm pretty sure any burrito is going to taste fucking awesome.
The restaurant capacity for the whole night was 8 people. But he was loving it, man, and he was living it. He disconnected, and he made a conscientious choice to go live life on his terms, to spend time with his family, to de-stress, to do what he loves, and I thought it was a beautiful choice. He was living in a beautiful state, which is kind of cool.
So it's weird you say that. So I've talked about this quite a bit with people. My dream after real estate, maybe it's like a 5-year plan or less.
Yeah.
Me and Chris want to open up a restaurant. I want to open a steakhouse. Mostly because I do enjoy feeding people. I like cooking.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to be cooking at the restaurant. Maybe I'll have some type of say in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is one of those fun things. Like, it's not burritos. I mean, I do want to charge quite a bit.
He had steak.
I'm going to have some overhead.
I mean, it was a chicken marinated in orange sauce all day. Ooh. And he made his own refried, and he made his own fire roasted salsa. He picked the vegetables from his own little garden. Like, this dude was committed, and he appreciated that I could appreciate it because I love food, and I can tell when it's good and they put their heart into it. Mm-hmm. And I was saying I sent some orange in there, and I could tell your tomatoes were just freaking amazing. He got all excited and was showing me the tomatoes and the orange sauce, and it's like, man, you get it, you appreciate it. I was like, of course. He's in tune with his purpose, his destiny, what makes him happy, and he's living that. Nothing more beautiful than that.
So end of the world, you go set up shop next to that guy?
Maybe. Everybody's purpose, gifts, talents are different. Like, what does it for him is not going to do it for me. What does it for me is helping people and practicing the law and helping injured people, the voiceless, powerless, injured, and oppressed. I lived in a barn for 3 weeks in Wyoming with a 93-year-old lawyer on an Indian reservation so that I could develop that skill.
What led you to the barn? Hold on. Why are you in the barn?
I was at a crossroads, man. I was doing a lot of criminal cases, civil rights. I didn't know what I wanted to do, what was next. I was like, man, I've done all this, and I feel like I'm trained, I'm doing better, but, like, what am I really supposed to be doing in the law? I know I'm a lawyer now, and a buddy of mine had gone to Wyoming and lived in this guy's barn with all these grizzly bears running around.
Why am I picturing like a Rocky scene, like a montage of you just in the barn, just looking through books?
We had to scrub our toilets, wash our dishes, and we painted our souls. We sang on top of picnic tables. Like, it was this experience.
Your what?
We painted our souls.
like this, your feet?
No, our soul, like your soul, your spirit. We went through this journey, and we went through these meditative things. We hiked up the mountain every day, and there's this 93-year-old lawyer who's one of the greatest lawyers ever in the history of the world.
Is he messing with me?
I'm serious. No, you can look him up. His name's Jerry Spence. Uh-huh. He's won billion-dollar cases, and he before spent his life defending cases like for big companies. And one day a guy came in and he had to do the trial against him. He was permanently paralyzed from like the chest down, kind of Kevin Saunders kind of deal. And he won the case. The jury awarded him nothing, and he got zero. He did his job. And then he ran into him in the grocery store, and the guy was coming up, and he was in front of him and struggling to put his groceries on the conveyor belt. And Jerry realized that he used all his talents and his abilities to basically fuck this guy over and get him nothing, and that he knew in his heart the company had messed up, they were responsible, and they destroyed this guy's life. So as he was putting this guy's groceries on that little conveyor belt and helping him, he started crying. And he goes, man, I knew that the company did wrong. I knew that this wasn't right. Your life is permanently destroyed because of what my client did. And something changed or clicked in him that he said, from this day forward, I'm going to make it right, and I'm going to create a school of lawyers in Wyoming in my barn, because this guy had hundreds of millions of dollars from different things he'd done. And so he trains people to either defend innocent people on criminal cases or to defend the voiceless, powerless, injured, and oppressed people like this guy in the wheelchair. And so he trained people to go win trials and do things to be able to help others so they could get justice for their injuries. Not only did he start just suing big companies and attacking to promote that, and he never took a defense case after that again or represented an insurance company, he only did cases where he could help people who needed it. And he created a trial lawyers college where people would come, train with him, learn all his techniques and his styles, because he's a brilliant, maybe one of the best lawyers to walk the earth, and teach us how to go out and try to help other people. So that's where it was inspired from, was that barn in Jerry's barn in Wyoming.
That's amazing, bro.
Thunderhead Ranch, and that's what changed my life, and that's why before that I didn't do any injury law or injury cases or help injured people like the guy in the wheelchair in that store. But after that the destiny, that purpose was clear, what I was supposed to do, and that's what I've been doing. And since I've been doing it, it's weird, it's blown up so quickly that now we're able to help more and more people, so that's pretty cool.
I don't think we can top that right there.
That's the truth, man.
Well, before I let you go, I do have to let you go. Say everything again. Where can people find y'all? How do they get a hold of y'all? Social medias. I know y'all are doing a bunch of different marketing things. How can they get a hold of y'all?
Real easy to find. Just put Heil Law Firm in in your Google or on your phone.
The Fox logo.
Pop up, and the Fox will pop up.
I said you were coming in. She goes, "Oh, the Fox guy."
The Fox guy. Heil, is what we say. Battling for justice, winning for the community.
And you'll have an event coming up too, which is another
this Friday.
Okay, so tell me about the event.
So all the deal with Randy White coming in town was for us to try to raise money so 100% of the profits could go to helping kids in the community. this Friday at Academy Sports and Outdoors in the morning. We call it our MVP shopping spree. So awesome. All these MVPs from all these schools are going to be there. Academy's closing down the whole store.
Awesome.
So that just the personal shoppers like you, me, and tell me your name.
Jessica
can be there. They'll actually pair you up with a boy or a girl.
Mm-hmm. And do you need any personal shoppers? What time is it?
I'm asking you to be there. Yeah, 7:15 this Friday, Friday morning.
Okay.
What we'll do is we'll actually pair you up with a boy or girl from a local middle school who's an MVP, who might need that little extra boost, and you'll have the chance to actually make a difference in their life to encourage them and go shopping with them and get them what they need. And all that gift card and everything is paid for from the money that we raised on this event.
Cool. If y'all need volunteers, that'd be really fun.
We do, and we're looking for that right now.
I don't mind waking up early. I wake up early every day.
It'll change your life. Last year we did it, and a little kid had the shoes and was walking around the store, and then he handed them back to Albert, his shopper, who's one of our paralegals. And he goes, no, these are for you. And the kid looked at him with tears in his eyes, and he says, no one has ever done anything like this for me. Do I get to keep these? Mm-hmm. Like he didn't even know he could keep them.
He didn't even grasp what was going on.
Yeah, he didn't understand it. And no one had ever done a nice act for this kid, and he never had a pair of shoes like that. We had two brothers that first year that had to share the same pair of shoes. One kid would wear them Monday, the other brother would wear it Tuesday. They'd have to alternate the same pair of shoes so that they could play in sports.
Did they at least wear the same size?
They had the same size. There were two brothers.
Socks on.
Yeah, there's two brothers, and they had to share the same pair of shoes that whole season. So they had to take a day off just so that they could play. We got those two brothers covered, so now they got their own pair of shoes.
That's awesome, dude.
And just to have that connection, and everybody had their own personal experience, but I think it helps us as much as it helps these kids because it moves something inside you to do something good for someone else, or maybe to give them some encouragement. A lot of these kids, man, they're broken. They don't have a mom and dad role figure in their life, and they're struggling, and it's not their fault, but they do want to participate in sports, and they want to have that shiny, like a shirt on or a Nike shoe or something that will allow them to be out there. And a lot of them are talented athletes. They just don't have the chance to be out there. So it's really cool that we can actually be there to support kids in our community, to give them a chance to be successful. And so it's coming together. If you'd be there, we'd be honored, man, to have you there.
It'd be a lot of fun. Well,
it'll change your life.
I will message you after this, and that way I get the details. I'll be there. This is Gino's table. I think everybody brings on the table. You definitely bring a lot, so I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you,
I make everybody sign the table. If you could find a spot, pick a Sharpie.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get you taken care of and out of here, bro. I appreciate you coming in.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man. That was awesome.
Thank you, brother. You too.